Yo, what's up, everybody? We got a full panel today for this Let's Rap Super Show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody on here. I'm Philosophical, your host.
I'm Jay Echo. What's good?
We've got Iamshatoria back from last week. Thank you so much. We got the illustrious Jamie Woods here back from last
You're
week. Thank you so much. And welcome back to Miss Javi, who is back, who is also a regular on the show. And we're going to get right into it and start with how to know if you're in a committed relationship, if you're ready for a committed relationship, and the pros and cons of being in that committed relationship. We're going to start with Javi here.
Like, I did say I wanted to go first.
Yeah.
So how to know if you're ready? I think that you, first of all, have done work on yourself to the point where, like, you feel fulfilled already as an individual. Because sometimes people are not, like, they haven't done enough work on themselves, but you feel like just happy and fulfilled on your own. So I think that's number one. And then when you've done that work, you've healed maybe from previous relationships. I think that is a big indicator that you kind of like created space for a relationship. You want to combine the two, or are you gonna do the rounds and then come back to the pros and cons?
We can go around. We can go around because I think the pros and cons are kind of, we can do that kind of a list format to kind of say, because I know everybody's pros and cons and descriptions are going to be a little different.
Yeah.
So go
So
ahead.
I think that that's pretty much that. And I think that you realize that you have a desire to be in a relationship. But I also think there's so much to be said about you just being open and kind of living your life and then meeting somebody where you're like, okay, this makes sense with this person, as opposed to saying to yourself, hey, I want to be in a relationship, and then just trying to find somebody to plug into that spot. Like, those are two different things, if that makes sense.
Uh, I'm going to completely disagree. And the reason why I'm going to respectfully disagree is because I feel like um, the reasonings for a woman being ready for a committed relationship could be totally different than a man's. I think naturally, and a woman's traits, no disrespect to the women, is that I think women naturally at the start are more open to being in a relationship with men than men are being with a woman. Now, there are the factors of the reasoning why a woman wants to be with a man and a man wants to be with a woman is totally different, right? I've I've been learning and seeing a lot. I think women see the potential in a man, and I think men just see like the short-sighted, the here today, gone tomorrow, the trophy wives, the physicality, the she's beautiful, this, that, and the third. And I think like that's why a lot of times women, they say women mature a little bit faster than men, because we as men, we look at the physical thing of it. Women, they look at a man's potential, they look at his leadership skills, they look at who he can become. They basically look at what a man could become before a man knows what he can become. So I think, as far as, I think women are a little bit more ready to be in a committed relationship than men are. Men, it takes a lot for a man to be ready to be in a committed relationship. It takes a little bit of, I won't call it pulling teeth, but a little. It takes a lot to understand for a man to realize, is this woman going to hurt me the same way the last one did? Is this person gonna? Can I trust this person? Can I bring this person around my family, my friends? Yes, there's an attraction part of it, but I feel like those are some of the different traits of like a man being ready. So I do think there are different reasons and why women are more open to being in a committed relationship than men are. But I do think men need to kind of step it up when it comes to that. So we'll go to Jamie on this. What are your thoughts on this, Jamie?
Well, to hop on what you just said, just to piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
my little explanation behind it is that for men, your value is based upon how many women can you attract, and not being a committed relationship. But with a woman, it's like, can I get that high value person to be committed to me and just me? So that's why well, that's my explanation. You know what I mean? But going back to the question, I believe that how you know you are ready for a relationship is when you've moved past your old one where you're not having all that negativity in your mind. Because the problem is when you're in a breakup or you're going through something with your ex or whatever it is, it's going to take a while for you to move on from her. You know, so it takes a lot of healing, a lot of time. So once you've moved on past that, and of course you meet the right person, because the problem is that I'm not going to feel ready for a relationship unless I meet the right person. Once I meet the right person, I'm like, all right, like you're it. Like I want a relationship with you. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel ready at all. That's just me.
Yeah,
so if I meet the right girl, that obviously she's like that missing piece, that missing puzzle piece to my, you know, my whole puzzle, you know what I mean? And she has aspirations and ambitions, and it's sort of in the same page as me. I'm gonna be like, okay, she's the one, and I'm gonna settle with that particular girl.
Do you think it takes men longer to heal than women?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, this is coming from personal experience.
Yeah.
When I dated my ex and stuff, it took me a couple of years to heal from that. She was the one that broke up with me. And the thing was, she had already moved on mentally before she physically broke up with me. And I saw that, but I was in denial. So now you're going through the stages of loss. You're going through numbness, denial, anger. You have to go through all that. And as a man, I feel like it just hits you a bit differently, especially when she moved on to another man. She just went to a different man. And I was like, damn, I took that personally. I went on, I was depressed. I was eating. I was doing things I wasn't supposed to do. So it took me a while to come to my senses and be like, yo, like I can get another girl. I just got to put in the work and I got to concentrate on me real quick, you know? So for men, it just hits you a little bit harder. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just my experience.
I will say from personal experience that, you know, in my, you know, experience is that as a man, it does take a little longer to heal, because I feel like I took it, you know, those past experiences, I took it as a way of betrayal, that I was constantly pursuing someone, and then, you know, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So it's almost like betrayal, you know, and then it's like, boom, you know, it hits you different. Like, you know, can you do this again with somebody else? So it's always that thinking of like betrayal. Go ahead, Shatoria. What are your thoughts?
So to piggyback on Jamie, when he said that, you know, it took him a little long time, I think the thing that we tend to forget is women know how to check out of a relationship before they actually physically leave the relationship. Hence why we can heal a whole lot quicker, because we've checked out. We've already moved on mentally. For men, if they're deeply in that relationship, they haven't moved on mentally or physically because so it can be a balance to me when it comes down to the healing process. It's just all about when you start the healing process. Now, to answer the question, the two biggest things for me is, are you willing to be transparent? You can't be in a relationship and not be transparent. It's just, it's just not. Are you open to growing? Are you open-minded? And are you healed? If you're just not none of those things, then you're not ready. Because if you're going in not being open-minded, because we tend to forget, a lot of us attract the total opposite of us. And a lot of us are not tolerant of the total opposite. Like we were saying earlier, you know, you got to have a certain amount of, you know, money in your account. Like, come on now, we got to be transparent to what is really going on and what's really in front of you. You're easily able to lose what's in front of you because you're not transparent. You're not honest with yourself. The healing is big, because if you're not healed, a lot of us as women have a habit of wanting men to carry that baggage that we have to help us unpack it. And I can't expect a person who don't know how to unpack my baggage or handle my baggage to do that. That's an expectation that we shouldn't be doing. So you got to go in, you know, all understanding that he's also going to have baggage too. It just depends on which baggage you're willing to deal with. I've seen people say, oh, I don't want to be a step parent. That's a baggage they don't want. You can't be mad at that. So you either, all right, cool, I acknowledge it and I move on. So yeah, being transparent, being healed, being open-minded. You got to be those things before you are really ready for a relationship, because unfortunately, yeah, a lot of us, we're getting older, and it ain't the bucket ain't what it used to be. If you really want to think about it, it ain't.
Yeah.
The numbers are slim. It's real slim.
I actually like that point about the transparency. If you can, we'll piggyback off of that as far as the pros and cons of being in a committed relationship. If you can kind of piggyback off that transparency and speak on that, I think that is a great point to make in the pros and cons of being in a committed relationship. Go ahead, Jay.
There's not too much else for me to say. Like, you guys sort of covered all the main points. It's like, are you healing? Yes or no? Be transparent if you are going through that healing process. And also be willing to just straight up say, you know what, I'm not ready for a relationship right now. I think too many times, whether we're men or women, there's a lot of pressure to jump right back into something or get back involved in something for whatever reason, whether it's, oh, your boy say, oh, she left you. Oh, you're good, man. Just go find you a rebound chick and you'll be good, or something like that, or
I think that's easier for men. I don't think a lot of women are doing that.
I'm talking about dudes in this
scenario.
Or
dudes are doing it.
Or on a lot of pressure for a woman to be like, oh, I thought you guys were going to get married. When's your husband going to show up? Or when do you plan on having kids? Or all of that subtle stuff that happens that we as men don't necessarily need to deal with. Yeah. But it's perfectly fine to just be honest with yourself and be like, you know what? No, now's not the time. Like we've been discussing recently, it's okay to be alone sometimes, especially if you're doing the work you need to do to get to that good relationship or get to that good place that you are open to a positive relationship. And yeah, it's the fact that somebody's willing to, if you can be honest with yourself in that point, I think you're on your way there at least, even if you might not be there completely.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I want you to, whenever we get back to it, we're getting ready to get to in a few minutes as far as the pros and cons. I think that's a definite pros and cons. And also Shatoria brought up a good point. I believe it's Shatoria. As far as, and it made me realize, to the point I wanted to say, is that it gets to a point where the energy you put out, you attract a certain type of person, right? Men and women, you know what I mean? There's always this conflict and this thing where we as men and women, we push away people that are completely different than what we're used to receiving, right? I used to be a person of this, where different people show their love in different ways, you know what I mean? But you got to be mature and grown up about it to be able to accept that love. So I think I'll start with we'll talk about the pros and cons of being in a committed relationship. I think a pro is the transparency, the honest, the communication. We talked about on the show, you got to be able to have the tough conversations. You got to be able to talk to each other. And I say, if you're having that, those type of conversations in a relationship, in a committed relationship, you're on a good trajectory. Now, you may not like each other's responses on those conversations. That's a different conversation, as far as like, you've got to really put in the work on how to communicate with each other, right? But I feel like the foundation of it is being able to talk to each other and communicate with each other. A con is, in my opinion, not being able to communicate with someone not being very transparent, someone not being very open. And big one for me is, a major con to me is someone not being consistent. If you're not going to be consistent with me, that means potentially you're not going to be consistent with yourself. That brings just a lack of trust, just brings a lack of what are we doing here? Just a lack of direction. And I know a lot of times I speak on it, as far as myself, I've had these issues before. And I know a lot of men out there have had these issues with just the lack of being honest, lack of being transparent, communicating. I know we joke about, like, you got to make the most amount of money. You got to look like this. You got to look like that. But if you're not being honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with someone else. So bottom line, pro for me is just communicating, being consistent, being honest. A con is just, you're not being honest with yourself. You're not being consistent with yourself. as we talked about on the show, like the honeymoon period ends after 3 to 6 months. So if you're in it just for the physical, just know that pretty much that's pretty much what you can potentially only get out of it.